And one of the challenges that I faced when I left home, when I was about 19, was that I just kind of wanted to get away. I don't know how many of you feel sometimes like you just want to get away? You know, just get away. So when I was 19, I kind of ran away. I got married and I ran away. And I moved to Colorado with my husband, and we spent a year there, and then we moved to Calgary. And once we were in Calgary, we kind of came to the conclusion that we had married too young, things were not working out. So I went on my own, he went on his own, and we parted ways after dating for like 6 years. So I was 21 years old, I was divorced. This was in the early 80s, and there I was. And it kind of began the journey that we heard in the story earlier. The sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and craziness in life, and having things take over when you really aren't sure as a young person, what does that mean? And so as I cruised through my early 20s, I cruised in a way that wasn't healthy. I was working a full-time job, and I worked in a nightclub at night. And so I was working 60, 70, 80 hours a week. And the only thing that kept me going was the drugs that I was doing. So I remember being up at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning doing the snorts of cocaine so that I could get through to go to work at 9 o'clock to work at the office. And along with that lifestyle also comes things like sexual promiscuity. It just falls into place. You just kind of end up in that circle. So here I was in my early 20s, and I was falling into this, and I didn't know which way to turn. And as it happens with many women, and I'm sure there's more than just myself and Deirdre in this moment of, oh my goodness, I'm pregnant. So I began to clean up my life, and I did clean up my life. And I birthed 2 children and got married to their dad. We were married for about 5 to 6 years, and then in the early 90s, we separated, and I became a single mom. And my children were 2 and 3 years old, and I raised them on my own. And you know, I was really successful. I had a good job. I made ends meet. I raised my children. I was a pillar of society. I was working in a church. And so, you know, everybody would look at me and say, "You're the church lady?" And I would say, "Yeah, I'm the church lady." Because when they would say that to me would be when I was sitting in a bar drinking myself stupid. And they would not put the 2 pieces together. And so life carried on that I had this secret life that nobody really knew about. Nobody didn't know that I was a drunk. I was so good at hiding it. I was so good at masking it that nobody knew it. And you know what's really even more interesting is 2 years ago when I spoke on this stage, I was still a drunk. And I had gone through different things in my life that kind of made me realize. So in 2015, if we step back a little bit, I knew I was a drunk. But you know what my problem was? I drank red wine. So I thought to myself, well, I'll just give up red wine and I won't be a drunk anymore. So I went off red wine. I didn't drink red wine anymore. So what did I do? I drank white. Right? So I started drinking white. I'd have a glass or 2, a glass here, a glass there, and I was good, and I was still drinking. How many of you have heard Oprah talk about a functional alcoholic? I don't know if other people have heard that term, because Oprah coined it a few years ago, and it is. And there is a lot of people who are walking around as functional alcoholics. And that's what I was. And so in 2015, I got a job as clergy, because when I say I was a church lady, I wasn't just an administrator of a church for 6 years. I went to school in seminary, and I did my university degree from seminary, and I graduated in 2013 to be clergy. So can you imagine coming to my church, and I was hungover on Sunday morning? And there I was, thinking I was getting along fine because I was a functional alcoholic. So my daughter was married in 2016. I was very good on her wedding day. I didn't drink all day because I knew I didn't drink all day. And it's the one thankful thing that I have in my heart that I did not drink at my daughter's wedding until after the service. After service was all over. And do you know what I did? There was the mother of the bride sitting in my daughter's kitchen, drinking wine by herself while all of the family were out. They were taking pictures. My brothers and sister were off because they thought the mother of the bride would be with the bridal party. The bridal party didn't need me. I don't have a partner because I'm an isolated drunk. So I sat in her kitchen for 2 hours between the wedding and the dinner, drinking myself stupid. So here I am, this functional alcoholic. And I came to MoMondays, and I got up on stage, and I told my story. And something that night seemed to change me, because collective healing works. I just felt that there was a story in me to be told. And the story in me to be told was that for the next 30 years, I wanted to talk about how for the first 60, I was a drunk. But at 60, I smartened up. Thank you. So I had given up red wine, and I didn't drink much beer. I let go of the scotch. But when I got to a point where I was drinking 3 boxes of white wine a week, I felt I needed to do something. So January 26th of 2018, for some reason, that morning, when I poured the alcohol down the drain, it was for the last time. So I'm a year and 20 months sober, and it's been, thank you. It has been the best thing. And what I want to talk about just for the last moment or two is that my next 30 years are going to be spectacular. And I say that because I have all of a sudden discovered, and tell me that you don't know this too, that I have an incredible spirit that has been drowning for 60 years. Well, maybe not 16, let's try 45. 45 years, because I didn't start drinking till I was about 15. But I've had this incredible spirit. So I learned about the divine love. I learned about loving myself. I learned about people's experience with faith and with a story of faith and with being in church. I've learned about the Christian faith, but I've also learned about all the other faiths and where we are when we have faith in ourselves and when we believe that our own spirit is beautiful. So as we talk about collective healing, and as we talk about our next 30 years, what does your next 30 years look like? I know mine's pretty rosy, and mine's pretty sunny, because I started 3 years ago when I was still a drunk, doing triathlons and running and marathoning. So this past summer was the first time I ran and did marathons and did that with no alcohol in my system. And it was pretty amazing. And I love biking, so I love that too. I'm looking forward to finding out more about that as well. But my next 30 years is about my spirit. The first 60 has been about living and trying to survive, and I've now survived it. And my hope and my passion is to now work within a spiritual area of helping others let go of that which does not serve them, such as your next drink. Thank you.